stay with us. The Auditor-General of the Federation has accused the Central Bank of Nigeria of mismanaging 2.73 trillion naira in interest payments from the controversial Ways and Means facility. This allegation, detailed in the 2021 federal government financial report submitted to the National Assembly, reveals serious breaches of constitutional and financial regulations governing public funds. The Ways and Means mechanism, intended as a temporary budget support loan, saw interest payments allegedly retained by the CBN for its benefit rather than being remitted to the Consolidated Revenue Fund, CRF. And now I'm joined by Mukhtar Mohammed, the CEO, Asher Investment Ltd, for more on this. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show with us on your birthday.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All right. Now, this report says that the CBN allegedly retained interest charges amounting to 2.73 trillion naira using the funds for its sole benefit rather than returning them to the Consolidated Revenue Fund, of course, the CRF. How did you receive that? How discomforting is this?
It's not comforting, but it's all what we already knew. If you follow the trial of the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, you won't be surprised in what you hear, because actually what was like in Ways and Means was a conduit pipe for corruption. So I'm not surprised why they say those revenue, those interests were not remitted back to the consolidated account. Remember, again, those revenue were not a part of, those money were not part of CBN, maybe funds or whatever fund from the CBN that it was printed. And that's why they remember the minister also keeps saying that the minister and the CBN governor keep talking about the 4-point-something trillion that was for the Ways and Means that was injected into the economy. And that has been why the inflation has not been able to be curtailed up to this moment, because of that huge liquidity in the system. So it's not surprising for what the Auditor-General office is bringing out. We already know that. And again, it's good to know that the Auditor-General office also found themselves culpable of the same offense by not following the due process in granting that loan or in allowing the federal government to pay for those.
Did you say the Auditor-General or the Accountant-General?
The Accountant-General office held culpable for that. So I think that is good to hear that and there was no control mechanism. And that's what we keep saying, that there's no structure in the Nigeria parastatals, especially federal agencies. So we are seeing that playing out by this report. So it's not surprising. I don't think it's a new report. It's just a report that has been put in an audited form, but these are views that are already known in the public domain.
Interesting. Now talking about the Accountant-General, who was supposed to do certain things and ensure that monies that were not, approved and all of those were not disbursed. What's going to happen to that particular, what's going to happen now?
In Nigeria, you never suffer for whatever you've caused. So definitely, I think that Accountant-General is retired. Now we have a new Accountant-General. I'm not sure the CBN or the EFCC or the federal government want to prosecute him unless he's found capable in terms of making some of those funds find their hands into his own private coffee. If that is not found, I don't think the government will do anything about it. Because again, when you
but how does that deter the current one from, doing and enabling the same thing? Because there should be punitive measures for things like this, so they do not just continue.
And Babacha, when you see teams like this and you know that you don't have the institution to deal with them, this is where we normally should have seen the EFCC swim into action, but definitely will not see them, because it's not going to be a rainbow type of getting the man arrested, showing it publicly, so they won't be involved in that. Once you see there are things like this, what you need to do to guide against things like this, knowing that you don't have a strong institution that persecute, is to get strong structures in place, control mechanism like it's done in the private sector. I think that's all we need to do. But to say that they will be persecuted, the legal system in Nigeria, he also will say he got approval from various arm of government before giving those reports. So you just try to go through a cycle that at the end of the day, it will be fruitless. So I think we just need to go beyond that and set up institution control mechanism to make sure something like this never happen again.
Well, you talked about institutions, and talking about that, I mean, we've heard a lot of persons say we have strong persons, strong people in Nigeria, but we do not have strong institutions. Now, how do we get to that part, or that, I mean, how do we get to that place where institutions become very strong and are able to do what they are supposed to do?
The political will to do that, and that's basically what we entail, whether the current president or whoever is in leadership decide to do the right thing by looking at, well, giving a political will to put on structure on ground. Because again, when you put structure on ground politically, they sometimes think that that structure is going to deter them also from gaining from whatever means they want to do. So it's all about thinking like a statesman, like I always say. But what we've had in previous administration and even in this current administration, they think of the political side rather than the statesmanship. Yeah, you know, the politician always think of the next election. The statesman always think of the future of the country. So until we have leaders that will look at the future of the country, we'll continue to have challenges like this rather than bringing in strong institutions. They try to build up an institution that will be advantageous to them at the time they are in power. So that is the major challenge. We need to have this political will to look at the future and say, look, we need a better future, whether I'm there or not. That's the only way you can build a strong institution.
Interesting. Now, knowing that to a very large extent, I mean, politicians have proved over time that they may not be able to do these things. What then should the citizens do? Is there a role the citizens can play with some level of citizen engagement, or what can the citizens do actually to change this? Because it has to change.
Perpetua, you know, I always say when it comes to citizenship, it has to start with you people, the press people, the media need to lead the way, and then the citizen will follow, because the citizens sometimes do not have hands to some of this information that you people have hands to. Remember, the freedom of information bill is there for you people to latch on and then get the citizens in the same page with you people. Unfortunately, also, the media have their own challenges, either trying to look at it in like what the president said today in his morning in his New Year broadcast, ethnicity, religion, or what other issues that tend to blind them. Oh, is our own man, is my own man that is there. So they've not been able to lead that. Even with the citizens, also the same challenge normally happen is, okay, it's our turn. So what can we get from that turn rather than destroy the person? So until we begin to have a common vision, a common goal, like what the president said in his New Year message, we'll continue to suffer in issues like this.
Well, looking at the charges against the actual CBN governor, you know, and going through this particular report, one of the things that sort of hits me is the depth of corruption and impunity in the country. What do you attribute this to?
Like I said, it's lack of leadership, lack of structure. Everybody wants to look at taking advantage of the system. It's not just a Nigerian problem, it's a global problem. But when you have strong institutions, it's difficult for them to take advantage of the system. And when they do, they are caught and they are punished for that again. Now, two things we need to build in Nigeria, just like you said, we need to build a strong structure. That is one. Then we need to build a strong judiciary that is able to do out justice to whoever is found culpable at a record time. So the challenge is that you have some cases going for up to 9 to 10 years. At a point, they lose momentum and then they tend to take advantage of it. So we need to build good structure and also build a good judiciary to be able to make sure that when those structures are infringed upon, there's a law to make sure that whoever does it is punished. And also the National Assembly. Because in all of this, you cannot say the National Assembly is not culpable, because they are also supposed to have an oversight function. I'm sure those oversight functions also includes to go to the Office of the Accountant General to get their books. And this is just a 2021 audited report, Perpetua. We are already in 2024. What about the 2022 audited report? We're not even talking about, I mean, we're already in 2025. What about the 2022? What about the 2023? What about the 2024? All we think about is just to pass in the budget as soon as we can without even having an audited report. In any good institution, in any good company, your report must be audited first before you are thinking of passing in the budget for the next year. So, and this cannot happen unless we have a strong institution. And this strong institution doesn't have to be only in the parastatals or in the ministry. Also, the National Assembly itself should be an institution. The judiciary also should be an institution. there shouldn't be a backup of the administration of the executive arm of government, especially the National Assembly, like what we have seen over the years. They become a rubber stamp for the executive to just get away with whatever they do.
You know, I like what you said about audit, because I was going to ask you, this is 2021, you know, the report focuses on 2021 financials, and this is 2025, like you said. Why are we having these delays?
Well, it still boils down to lack of institutional framework. Remember the same CBN, when the present governor came in, they have to do an audited report for about, is it 4 years audited report in 1 year? So that is lack of structure, and that is why you get what, and even since this current CBN administration have come into power, after that audited report, we've not seen any audited report yet from the Central Bank of Nigeria as regards their own performance since this current governor took over. So it has to do with strong institution. It has to do with a lay down procedures that look, and that's why I keep saying the National Assembly comes in and say, look, you will not get any allocation until we see your audited report of the previous year. You lay this down as a benchmark to even have your budget approve. So when you do that, then you put both the minister, the permanent secretary, and everybody that is in charge on their toe, because they want allotment, they want to perform, so they will be able to do that. But until we do that, until we begin to put that in place, we'll continue to get mediocrity in terms of having audited report. The Nigerian government itself, and they have not been upcoming when it comes to audited reports. So it definitely is not new to this administration. It has been there for a while. And this, like I keep saying, is lack of strong institution to drive these processes.
Well, I'm tempted to ask, you know, if we can put a number or percentage to the fraction of the nation's uninspiring or not so good enough revenue that has been frittered away by an opportune few. I mean, can you put a figure to it? And, you know, what's the implication of this if it continues? I mean, the implication of this wastage on the economy and everyday Nigerian.
Perpetually, to put a figure on it, I have to look at what the various NGOs and other bodies have been saying, especially if you look at their strategic network, you look at budget IT, they've been coming up with a lot of figures as regard wastage, which is going into the trillions of naira. Yeah, and here we are trying to build $1 trillion economy. So I think those are part of the challenges that we've really had. When you put that in numbers, it's really huge. And like you said, corruption is almost becoming a way of life in Nigeria. So we don't tend to deal with it. We rather use it as a political tool against our opposition or our perceived enemies. Until we begin to look at it as an issue that must be dealt with, whether you are APC, whether you are PDP, whether you are Labour Party, whether you are AGAP, we'll continue to have those struggles in putting up those institutions in place.
All right, I mean, it's 2025. What are your expectations, especially in terms of the economy? And what areas of the economy are you really looking to see changes?
I'm excited about the economy, all the body language of the president, all he has said it was going to happen. He still re-emphasized it today in his New Year message, 15%. We see inflation comes down to 15%. We see exchange rate stability. We see job creation. We see credit to the SMEs. I'm so excited to see that happen. I've tagged 2025 as Nigeria economic miracle year, because I want to see how an inflation that you met at 22.4%, you've taken it to 34%, how it will change to get to 15%. I want to see that miracle. People keep telling us it was done in Argentina. I don't want to go into detail how Argentinians were able to do that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to a stable exchange rate in 2025. I'm optimistic about that, also based on what the federal government is telling us in terms of oil production and also in terms of physical discipline, even if I don't see that, especially with the humongous executive arm of government that we are seeing. But if you ask me what sector is going to excite me come 2025, I think the financial sector. We might see the roundup of all this recapitalization of the financial sectors, and we'll begin to see how they can have an impact on the economy as a whole. knowing that fully well most of these financial institutions, the banks, are now becoming holding structure. So they will be playing a lot of role in the overall economy of Nigeria. The energy sector is one of the most exciting sectors I'm looking forward to in 2025 because of what we've seen happen in 2024, the divestment and Nigerian companies getting investment in those space. And also when you look at the price war that has already started between the NNPC as a major producer and delivery of refined petroleum product, AGO, that is diesel, and Dangote refinery also in the same place. We are seeing those price war. I expect those price war to continue, and then who will enjoy it most? It will be the average Nigerian. They were saying that, always saying in Nigeria, that price doesn't go up and come down, but for the first time, we are seeing petroleum prices going up and coming down without labor going on strike, without demonstration. So I'm so excited about the energy sector. I'm excited about the financial sector. These are key drivers of the Nigerian economy. Why am I excited about the financial sector? If we have enough liquidity in the financial sector through the synergy between the bank and the CBN, the Bureau de Change, then we'll have a stable exchange rate. We attract foreign direct investors. We attract portfolio investors. We stabilize our exchange rate. When we have the energy sector, have that price go and price come down, that will be another bomb to deal with inflation pressure. Then we'll definitely see inflation come down, even if I'm not coming down at 15%, but I'm optimistic that in 2025, we might get that inflation pressure off us. And then we might get that rate cut that we've all desired for a long time. And you know what that means for smaller business, expansion and job creation. So
absolutely. I think we need to end it here. Thank you so much. Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO, Asher Investment Ltd. I love your optimism, even though you're calling some of those things, miracle. I look forward to those miracles also. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, and happy birthday once again.
Thank you, Perpetua. Thank you for always having me. Thank you for tolerating me all through 2024. I hope you tolerate me in 2025 too. Thank you.
I do not tolerate you. We love having you on the show. Thank you so much.